Hello and welcome to the Anime Explorations podcast. I'm Alex,
I'm Tora.
I'm David.
and we are a monthly anime book club podcast where we watch an anime series or movie and then talk about it. Normally, before we start the main discussion, we talk about current things going on in anime as well as what we're watching. Um, so to start things off a little bit of news thing. We got an announcement of a new upcoming anime on Disney Plus of something which is not what I'd normally expect for a Disney Plus series. Namely a new Cat's Eye anime. Cat's Eye being the series that the City Hunter creator did before he did City Hunter. It's like I describe it like Charlie's Angels meets Lupin the Third in terms of a bunch of female cat burglars, sexy female cat burglars in the 80s, doing heists with a police detective chasing after them, and never really catching up to them.
I don't know. I think in fiction you can't have a cat burglar who isn't sexy. I don't think it's allowed. Yeah. I don't know anything about Cat's Eye, but I mean trailer looks interesting. I'll check it out.
Yeah,
But there's
I,
a
I
continue.
watched a, I watched a bit of the trailer. The trailer, I've seen a bit of the original series. The series is very 80s. As is like I've listened to the whole theme song, and like there is a chunk in the interlude in the theme song, the full version, which I think they did in like an animated extended cut of the opening credits, which is basically okay. We're going to have a brief aerobics portion.
Leotard game is strong.
Yeah. uh, so yeah, I'm interested to see this. The trailer, which is basically sounds like it's meant to be the opening, the opening credits, looks very late James Bond inspired in the sense of like the late Daniel Craig, where like for Skyfall and No Time to Die and that sort of thing, except less melancholy, more
Late
playful.
as in late in that stage, not the late
Yeah,
Daniel Craig.
well, true. Not the late Daniel
He's
Craig,
very alive.
like
No,
not
he's
the late
alive.
Daniel Craig, but I've seen all of No Time to Die. His Bond is spoilers for No Time to Die. His Bond is the late.
He had a good run.
Yeah.
Uh,
There was another recent anime announcement that I'm very excited about.
oh,
Yes, they announced a new Gundam anime,
ah,
G-Quacks.
yes,
Uh,
G-Quacks with writing by Hideaki Anno.
he is co-writer on it, along with the other half of the Utina writing duo, the one who did the anime. So it looks really interesting. I'm really excited. It's premiering in January.
I've watched a lot of Gundam just because I'm married to this guy. And G-Witch was my favorite. It's so good.
G-Witch is so good. And this one was in production first. Like this one started production back in 2018. So G-Witch was apparently dropped as sort of this is what we're putting out to, hold over the fans until we can get this other one finished. And while Sunrise expected it to be, profitable, they weren't expecting it to be as popular as it is. Not that G no, I love G-Witch, which is to say Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. Yeah, so I'm very excited about this one too. We have another redheaded female protagonist.
Cool. Why
Yeah, I, I'm
Um,
really looking forward to this. As well. Um, I'm I wonder if perhaps the need to have another a Gundam anime slotted in there is perhaps why G-Witch had, compared to other Gundam series, a shorter runtime in terms of 24 instead of the usual 48 to 52.
that actually wouldn't surprise me at all. But also like G-Witch was just very closely plotted. Like they could have,
It was very focused.
yeah, that
There wasn't a lot of filler.
But also it was focused in that it was like a relatively small area going on. Like it was a very contained story. And
Yeah.
genuinely I appreciated that. Um, but yeah. Uh, Speaking of Gundam, I attended the Hatsune Miku live performance in Gundam Metaverse. A live performance in a virtual space. And it
Now,
was
It's like Inception in a way.
yeah. Like Hatsune Miku is always, a virtual performance in a live space. It was interesting.
I mean, it makes sense for Hatsune Miku. I mean, um, heck, I think Taylor Swift's done there was a bunch of doing a series of concerts in Fortnite. Most recent one being Snoop Dogg for his new album. So, I mean, if Snoop can do it, seems perfectly reasonable for Hatsune Miku to do it. Uh,
Yeah, like honestly, it was like annoying because they replicated so much of the concert experience, including having to be in line to get into the area. And it's like, really? We can't just okay.
We can't do away with cues.
Well, there was like you could not pass through somebody else. So yes, you had to actually
Everyone's avatars just pushing up against each other like a real crowd.
I what?
essentially yes, that's exactly what it
That's
was.
insane.
It was
Uh, I have not been to any of the concerts in Fortnite, but now I feel like I need to. I've never actually used Fortnite, but I feel like I need to
yeah.
go to one. I feel like I need to go to one now. So, like, okay, did Fortnite fix the queue problem?
Are there cues there?
Is this a case where the Gundam virtual metaverse is like, no, this is a solved problem, Gundam metaverse. If Fortnite can figure this out.
Come on, guys.
I was unable to stay for the whole thing because obviously it was very popular, so people started getting kicked. But I was able to get through a few songs. And then going back and it's like, no, I can't log in again.
Ah,
I don't think they had sufficient server capacity for as big as it was.
They underestimated the demand.
Yeah. Like Metaverse is still trying to get off its feet. It's still very. I think as a stress test, this one was fairly successful.
okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's talk about also what we've been watching this past season. Um, since the season is wrapping up. Uh, Dan to Dan has been great. Um, and so has uh 2.5D Seduction, which is getting a second season, which
Awesome.
I'm glad to hear. Uh,
Shangri-La Frontier continues to be fun.
Yes, Shangri-La Frontier, Do-Over Damsel. Honestly, it's really sweet and funny, and I'm enjoying it a great deal. And Dragon Ball Daima is just so very Dragon
It's
Ball.
kind of like peak, you know? Like
It's if you like Dragon Ball, especially if you like Dragon Ball more than Dragon Ball Z, you'll really love it. But I can see why, for a lot of people, this wasn't a good jumping on point.
um, Other stuff I watched. MF Ghost is all right. Season two is all right. They got through basically one race this season, and they're starting qualifying for the next race by the end of the season, which is by the end, which is about how they went last season. So I feel like that's how they're going to end up doing things, where it's going to like, okay, we're going to do a season of 12 episodes, we're going to do a race, qualifying for the next race, and then uh 6 months later, we'll do the next one. Or like 2 seasons later, we'll do the next season of 12 episodes and another race or that sort of thing.
Honestly, 12 episodes every 6 months is, that's pretty fast for an anime production schedule.
Yeah, like it works well. It helps to a certain degree that, like with Initial D, they're doing CG cars. And unlike Initial D, the tech is a lot better. And I expect which helps make things a lot easier for, relatively speaking, to plot the races out and that sort of thing, and set them up for different environments. Um, they're still doing like they'll do the regular um, standard animation for like the scenes outside of the cars or scenes focusing on the drivers, but it's not. But whenever there's any like the vehicle action, which normally for something like this would be the most intensive thing, it probably helps there. But yeah, it's all right. Um, they sound like they have a lot more characters from Initial D showing up at this point of the season. Not as competitors, but as like mentors to the other drivers. So it's definitely leading into Initial D, the next generation kind of thing.
But all these cute babies. I was drifting when they were in diapers.
What were we talking? Oh, right.
Anime
Yeah.
we've been watching.
Sorry. No. I was like, okay, there was some other race thing we were talking about. No, it was Ether Drift, and that was it.
Yep. The last like the stuff I've been watching this season is really fun. Um, Yakuza Fiance continues to like really kind of be impressive. It is like characters who are absolute dumpster fires, but are very smart dumpster fires. Um, like we had a storyline just recently which had like this Yakuza person who's blackmailing this TV presenter who's an old flame of the main character's female lead's fiance, uh, and uh, so that this Yakuza guy can take down the fiance and also the female lead because they're the grandsons of grandkids of these two big Yakuza bosses, one from Tokyo and one from Osaka. And this really like convoluted plot going on, while also the characters are again kind of ambulatory dumpster fires in fun ways.
What I'm hearing is soap opera.
Yes, very soap opera, but like it is soap opera with a side of the Like a Dragon games kind of thing.
Nice.
So that's I'm enjoying the show. I hope that gets a second season. It hasn't been announced yet. I'll probably talk my overall anime of the year stuff towards the end, but first we should talk about the movie we just watched. That movie being Animal Treasure Island, because we try to do for December since everyone's busy with stuff, is just watch a movie. And this is probably one of the earliest films we've done. It's from 1971. It was put out by Toei as part of their sort of annual film festival thing they do. The like Toei Doga or something, Festival of Animation or something like that. This is an annual project they did. And pick the show, one, because we like to stick with doing like back and forth between kids' movies and such for December. And also, Hayao Miyazaki worked on this. Did some story writing, and also a bunch of animation. Along with a manga tie-in apparently as well. So I was coming into this completely cold. Had you ever seen this before? Because it had gotten a US release in the past.
No, I had not seen this before.
Nope.
I really enjoyed this film as a fun, very ambitious, very well done kids film. I hated this as an adaptation of Treasure Island.
Yes.
I love Treasure Island. I love so many of its adaptations are very near and dear to my heart. This, as an adaptation, was god awful.
It's just broad strokes, basically.
It has some names the same, and that's it.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
Except the title then kind of leads you to assume it might
like
be
you
closer.
call it Treasure Island. I'm expecting Treasure Island. That isn't this. So as an adaptation, I hated it. as a film on its own, it was great. It was so much fun.
Man, Toei had budget at this time. This was such an ambitious animation project. The number of set pieces, the number of action scenes, the number of characters per frame in a lot of the action scenes. The animation was very smooth throughout. The facial expressions were great. The characters were, yeah, the characters were on model pretty much the whole time. Um, yeah, I mean, like as an animation piece, it's extremely impressive. Like not just for the time, but just period. Um, the ocean water effects were amazing.
Hmm.
Um, I will say that clearly the studio at the time was influenced by the works that Disney put out. A lot of the set pieces, especially in the very first opening scenes of the movie and in the kind of imagination dream voyage sequence, were very much inspired by Disney concept art, Mary Blair, in particular. Um, and then the designs of the animal characters, probably a little bit of influence there. I think I saw some Alice in Wonderland influence in the imagination sequences. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I'm just I couldn't help but see it as someone who studied animation. Um, but I mean, yeah, the one sequence that they did where there are two ships attacking each other and there's like a crew of like 100 pigs on one side. That's ambitious, man. And
So
that was only one action scene in a movie full of action
so
scenes.
reportedly that was Miyazaki's scene. One of Miyazaki's scenes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It was good.
Like there is just a bit. It's like it may be like a second and a half long of Kathy running along the yard arm. And I just like that was beautiful. Like the cleanness of the animation, the like carefulness about how you're putting down her feet onto the yard arm as she moves. It was just
You can see some of Kathy later in Nausicaa, I think, and some of Jim in Castle in the Sky. Some of the
I definitely
climbing
see that.
sequences.
Uh,
Yeah.
I also say like looking at this and thinking about it, like with knowing now that that scene with the army of pigs boarding over from the other ship, like that has like when I look over some think about some of Ghibli's other films, particularly the films animated by and directed by Miyazaki. That's actually one of Miyazaki's signature shots because he also does it later in Castle Cagliostro a bunch of times with Zenigata and all the cops, the
mm,
Yeah.
massive army of cops. It comes up in Castle in the Sky with the pirate, with the air pirates, and that sort of thing. It's played a bit more dramatically and seriously to an extent in um, a couple scenes in uh Princess Mononoke. Like that
Yeah.
is like I was kind of wondering like what is a director's signature scene that's something that pulls out of his playbook to go back to, and I think and like some because some directors have that, and I think for Miyazaki that actually might be
If he
his
was if he was proud of that, he was rightfully proud of that,
honest.
figuring out the mechanics of that. If you ask any animator what will give them the screaming willies, it's a big crowd scene, right? The movement of crowds is actually really interesting to study. Um, if you were looking at reproducing it for animation. And there are some things that make it really obvious that it's fake animation when you see certain crowd scenes, but Miyazaki's always had the ability to make it kind of like fluid and make it feel like the crowd is kind of a force or a character on its own. So even if things are moving in synchronization, the overall effect doesn't feel computer generated or fake. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean,
I also thought the scene towards the end of the movie where they were running across the little narrow,
the edge of the caldera.
yeah, the edge of the caldera, the mountainside, went like gangbusters. Like the sheer amount of physical comedy that is packed into this film is fantastic.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that in terms of like the comedy because I some of the bits really work. I think one of the problems I did run into is when they did try to shift gears to a sense of peril, like when you have the big pirate attack scene, and a bit toward the movie.
I don't think it successfully got peril across, especially with the comedy bit of one ship fires all the cannons and you see Silver and he hides behind like the railing and the railing's gone. And then he stands up and they fire again and he's like missing parts of his clothing now. And then they fire again and there's more and it's like and he's down to like just like half his shirt and his pants. And it's like there are so many cannons on that ship, and you are just taking off clothes. They didn't really get like this is dangerous.
Yeah, so weirdly, I think the thing that threw me the most, there were two bits in this movie that really threw me out of suspension of disbelief. The first is more cultural. The first is when the pirates literally beat up Jim with like a stick. Like I was like, okay, child violence. And I realized that this kind of thing and actual peril was more common in children's movies at the time than it is now. But yeah, my modern sensibility went like, oh, what? Okay. But then the second one was when the pirate ship that Jim and Kathy are on breaks in half and they're on separate halves. And the camera goes back and forth between them going, Kathy, Jim, Kathy, Jim, and it does this like 3 times. And I was like, you guys, you are not you're not succeeding in melodrama at this moment. We know they're gonna be fine.
Like it was Kathy, Jim. I wanted the mouse to show up and be Rex.
Yeah.
It almost enters the territory of Brad, Janet, Rocky,
It was
Dr.
so
Scott.
close.
Yeah.
I know that comes later, but yeah.
Or to put it in more anime reference.
I was like, I know what you guys are going for here.
Jotaro.
But the overall tone of the movie is so jovial and light and adventuresome that if you're going for like genuine pathos and peril in this moment, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Yeah, I think like the short way I would describe it, the issues where it comes up is if you have somebody get blown, if a bomb blow up next to somebody, and the worst they get is damaged clothing and soot on their face and so forth, then it becomes difficult to reconcile that um with with a big cannon battle between ships because we've already established a thing that should normally kill someone outright. And when something was trying to do kill someone outright, doesn't actually kill them outright. So,
The
in fact,
entire time, David and I were looking at each other like, okay, but where's the baby? Is the baby okay? But we figured out, I think, pretty early on that the baby's invincible. And always around somewhere.
The ship gets split in half. And I'm just staring. I'm like, okay, but which side has the baby?
Well, the side that has the walrus is the side that has the baby.
The baby is so invincible that it made the walrus invincible and switch sides. Like,
Like
why was
the ending was a little packed.
Why was there even a baby? I don't understand what purpose the baby served for the story. They were just there.
I would argue the same case about the rat or mouse.
The mouse makes sense from a mascot standpoint, as a cute animal mascot.
The entire cast, except for Jim and Kathy, are animals. I think Otto the Walrus would have been a better animal mascot. Okay, I suppose the mouse did help them get the key from the slaver that Jim was sold to.
Also, the mouse made the entire pirate crew fall asleep for a while.
Yeah, but that very easily could have just as easily been Otto.
And they had to wake them up anyway when the storm hit. So
yeah. I will say that the like little niggling thing that bugged me the most about this movie is they are locked up by the slave trader. We repeatedly see the outside of the cell, which is the side that has the enormous lock on the door on it. Like there's a tiny little barred hole. You cannot reach down, but they get the key to the inside and they're able to unlock
How
the
did they
door.
unlock it from the inside? That makes no sense.
It's a big ass padlock.
I'm just sitting here like, that's just how it goes. That's how these things work. Oh man. And then the only other thing that I really disliked about the movie was how Kathy starts out as kind of a badass character, and then by the end of the movie, she's just standing there while Jim is in peril going, "Oh no,
Jim.
and it's like, oh, come on.
Come on. You were
Yeah.
able to pull pistols out of nowhere several times before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's, and I think also like a bit of a disappointing thing for me is like, so to give you the context, one of the other podcasts I listen to is the Nextlander Watchcast, where they watch movies and comment on them. And earlier in the year, in November, they watched one of the films they watched was Cutthroat Island. And so one of the issues that they brought up with that movie, of the many issues, is so there's all this effort to get to Cutthroat Island, and they spend barely any time on actual Cutthroat Island. And that's the problem here. One of the problems I have here is they spend so much of the movie desperately trying to get to Treasure Island. They get there with like 5-10 minutes of movie left.
Yeah.
And then once they get the treasure, we're done. Roll credits. Play the song.
I will say it didn't bother me. When they're on the beach, there's this really cool shot from a camera that is way up high above the beach and shows them as little specks walking across the sand. And then they go into the jungle and there's very cool, like, matte paintings of the jungle. And then they get to the little mountain path and they have that whole action set piece there. And then they get to the top of the mountain and they find that it's a water-filled caldera. I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of stuff going on for the island location.
It is gorgeous. The island scenes are gorgeous. It's just I feel like particularly this is one of the instances where like the difference between the book and the adaptation runs into problems here as well, is the novel spends a significant amount of time on Treasure Island itself. And I feel like here we needed to have that time on the island, like a little bit more time for our adventures and that sort of stuff there, and maybe not spent as much time going back and forth doing slapstick on the boat and then doing slapstick in the pirate city and then doing slapstick on the boat again.
Very cool design for the pirate city. BT dubs. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, they clearly like really concepted this movie out and did, impeccable storyboards and shit. I was very impressed.
I feel, yeah, like the existence of Pirate Island is just at war with my desire to have a faithful adaptation. Like it's sort of pulling the same, set piece idea as the city that Jim goes to meet Squire Trelawney to get the whole ship going from the original story. But without Squire Trelawney and Captain Smollett, it's,
I don't know. Mentally, I kind of wrote off in my head not to expect anything from the book once I learned that there was no blind pew. So like in the first, 20 minutes, I was like,
Bones is never even called Billy Bones.
I was like, all right, we're just going on vibes. And
I think I smell something burning. No?
If you're a 10-year-old and you're watching a Treasure Island movie, of course you want a pirate city. Of course you want a giant boat clad in metal plates, despite how impractical that is in real life. Of course you want people just literally picking up cannons and firing them, even though that is 100% not how that works.
I mean, like the metal plated boat.
It's just cool.
I mean, that's the thing is like originally when I saw it, I'm like, okay, there's no way that thing can actually float. But then we got to see like a top shot and it's just like a thin coating of metal on an actual wooden plank. And I'm like, okay, so this is just to look scary. This is not actually practical in any way. And that I can totally see a pirate ship doing. I mean, where are they getting all this metal? I don't know, but
Why do so many pigs go in for pirate careers? One might as well ask.
I will say, Silver's design really reminded me of Porco Rosso,
Yeah.
especially with the little mustache.
Stash bits.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know.
I appreciated the like I think after the first 20 minutes in my brain a switch kind of flipped and it was like, okay, you're watching Looney Tunes. You know,
I actually
everyone is invincible and
I went to a Hanna-Barbera myself.
yeah.
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera or Mr. Magoo.
And then I was able to just kind of float with it like nice. Like once we've established the rules here.
So I watched this with the original Japanese audio. Did you watch this English dub or
We
the Japanese?
watched the dub and but we had the original Japanese audio for the subtitles and not that faithful, I gotta say.
The dub's terrible. Like it's kind of very much a product of the time. Yeah.
I mean, I looked at the cast. It's like 5 people doing all the voices.
Of course. And really trying to make the mouth movements work, even if they have to say things that are just random.
And yeah, like there was one bit where they just like they couldn't match it up. So there was a point where there was an exchange between Kathy and Silver, and Silver's speech went on longer, so you could hear it coming from Kathy as Kathy was talking. Or as you could see Kathy's the lip flaps going for Kathy.
Yeah, so we watched on the Internet Archive, so I'm not sure how old the dub we watched
That's
was.
the only dub.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's just the one.
There's
Yeah.
just the one.
So real old then.
Yeah, real old.
Yeah, basically like 1970s.
Yeah, it felt like that.
And-
yeah.
And some of the cast were even done the original English dub for Astro Boy.
Yeah, honestly, I would have sworn that the Speed Racer guy is in the cast.
Hey.
So Corinne Orr, who is the voice of Kathy, was in the Speed Racer dub.
Yeah, I knew it.
I don't know who she was on the original Speed Racer dub. Oh, so she was Trixie.
Yeah, she was.
Trixie and
Who could she have possibly been? The one girl?
well,
Okay, well, here's the thing. In the dub, Spritle is probably a girl. Like,
yeah, all right, that's fair.
she's also the voice of Spritle.
There you go.
yeah. Also, Mom Racer. There's another. And honestly, there were a lot of lady racers too.
So she's also the voice of Mom Racer, by the way.
Yeah. She's all the women. She is every woman.
70s, do better.
I mean, there weren't a lot of guy actors in that show either. It was a tiny cast.
The other thing I really liked about the movie, and I wonder how much was due to the influence of Western films, is that in a typical anime, you don't get a lot, like, and this is kind of changing as the industry changes, but in a typical anime, you don't get a lot of crazy camera angles or interesting camera work, typically. But this film had a lot, I think, of very interesting camera angles and shots and like distance shots to close-up shots, and it felt very, very cinematic in a way that I'm familiar with as a Westerner, if that makes sense.
Honestly, the way it had that like classic Disney opening of going through like the buildings,
The matte painting streets. Yeah.
the way it was like pulling through like one layer is just dissolving off as
I wonder if they used the glass plate trick.
That's what I was wondering.
Anyway.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Why am I saying sorry? We're supposed to be talking about this.
There was none of that like cost saving, fewer frames that you associate with most anime.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, there's a bit of that, but I think where I noticed more cost-saving stuff was more finding strategic ways to do reuse for like running gags and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
like when like when Silver keeps getting hit with the sleep potion. Or it's like, okay, we're gonna use sleep potion, drag him down drag him down below decks, brew the giant pot of coffee, and waterboard him with it.
Giant pot of coffee. I forgot
Hot
about
coffee
that.
coming
Hot
through.
coffee. That was the chef was delightful, I felt. The ship's cook.
Yeah.
Just
He knows what his job is.
random. Oh my gosh, speaking of ship's cooks, in Miyazaki's scene with the many swine pirates issuing out of their metal-plated ship, in the pullback shot where it's just a seething hive of activity, you can look through the windows of the metal-clad pirate ship and see the cook just unconcernedly like flipping an egg or something. Like it's just
Looks like he's making pancakes.
he's just cooking in there.
Frying up some victory bacon.
I
Well,
love
maybe not
that.
bacon. They're all pigs. That would be a good way to reuse the dead, and
Okay, relax.
pigs will.
Let's not.
Examine the
It's not examining
implications of the very lethal pirating life.
So yeah, that was delightful detail. A lot of
Yeah.
really good details. And I mean, that's kind of a thing that becomes Miyazaki's signature as well, is paying attention to details in terms of how things move and things going on in the background that you might not necessarily catch the first time, but it all gives this sense of verisimilitude.
Yeah, particularly in the sense of where this is a work that would have been a theatrical release, well before home video,
Would have
and
been more visible.
possibly even a very limited theatrical release. So been trick. So going back to see it on the set multiple viewings to get those little bits and pieces may have been tricky to pull off.
Yeah.
Uh,
I want to know how big the paper was that they were using for some of these scenes. Like I feel like I need nitty-gritty details.
yeah, this does feel like kind of thing. Like while this got a Blu-ray release from Discotek Media, um, Discotek does not always get from the original licensor access to bonus features that may have come from the Japanese release or necessarily the resources to do something equivalent on their own. And this feels like something where I think the Blu-ray release might be out of print right now, but if it got relicensed by instead, like I don't know, G Kids or something like that, I would hope that they would be able to like grab as much as they could in terms of people who worked on the original movie who are still around, and any archival materials to put together a making of documentary. Because
Yeah. Say what you will about Disney. The fact that they have an archive where they preserve materials like this is so incredibly important. Like I'm having, horrified visions of some back room on like the Toei warehouses that's just crammed with old cells from this movie and storyboards that have not been, preserved in any way. And that happens a lot, unfortunately, in media where materials are not adequately preserved, and then you get stuff like missing tapes and
yeah, that's one of the things that I know that Animigo was running into. Justin Savakis, the new owner of Animigo, has mentioned when they're working on their Blu-ray Bubblegum Crash, is that there are episodes for most of the series which are just they don't have the original materials for. They got original materials for some of it, but not all of it. So they're having because Savakis's company Media OCD has their own well put together process for AI upscaling, AstroRes, as opposed to whatever the hell they used for the um uh for
Interstellar.
for Interstellar.
Oh my
Um
God. I was just reading about that.
yeah. Like it's like Astro like they can do a good job using AstroRes to produce something that is watchable and reflects the original material well, as opposed to again the god awful Interstellar release. Um Hang on to your DVDs of that movie, folks, if you got them.
Physical media, very important.
Yes.
We keep coming back to this.
So, but
Because it's true.
I hope that there would be some initial materials for doing the work to put this up to do a special edition release at some point in the future. But if it not, what we got is pretty good. The Discotech release is very very well done in terms of the masters and letting us see all those fine details in the animation. So I guess to wrap things up a bit, since this is the last podcast of the year, I thought we might have a fun little bit of discussion and talk about of the shows and movies that we've covered over this past year. Which ones are some of our favorites?
Well, speaking for my wife, because we covered Totoro, I'm betting she's going to say Totoro.
Has a very special place in my heart.
Yeah.
But also Diamond is Unbreakable. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah. But you loved it before we watched it for this.
Yes, I did watch it before and I loved it. And then we watched it again and I still loved it. So consistency.
I mean, Thunderbolt Fantasy, always fun. My love story with Yamada-kun, genuinely, I enjoyed that. I don't know if I'd say it was my favorite. Ippon again, solid.
I think Dark Gathering was the most surprising one for me in terms of the first like couple episodes. I wasn't sure where it was going. I wasn't sure if this was my bag because I don't usually watch horror stuff. But then by the end, it's like, where's the rest? I need more.
Like, genuinely, of the ones I had not seen before and was unfamiliar with, Dark Gathering is really the one that made me go, I want to see more of
Where's
this.
the rest?
Not even where's the rest. It's just, I want more.
They haven't made it yet. No.
Yeah. I first off, give shout out to Blaine, Bureau 42 for joining us for the Totoro and Akira and Bubblegum Crisis episodes. It was really great getting to talk about Akira and Totoro and Bubblegum Crisis with someone who'd never ever seen them before.
Agree.
And getting to see them, to someone who's able to talk about them, see them with fresh eyes. And also, good getting to watch, get to rewatch Miyashimon again. Dark Gathering, also great seeing that. I was actually coming again. I wasn't coming like completely cold because I'd read the manga, but it was like, oh, I really wanted to really looking forward to seeing it and seeing it animated.
The week after, I was like, do not text Alex asking for spoilers. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh,
but then he texted us.
Also, as far as what the listeners are going for, on you going from the YouTube numbers, my love story with Yamada-kun is like one of the most listened to / watched episodes we've done.
Nice.
So I'm glad to see that grabbed people's interest. Hopefully that a bunch of new people got a chance to watch that.
Clearly, we just need to do more romance.
I'm down. I've already seen a lot.
I have a few thoughts for shows for some romance shows for next year.
We're gonna do a romance for February.
No, February's our Fatuary, so we do romance in March for White Day.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and so my current plan is, since we've done boys romance manga with My Dress Up Darling, we've done a shoujo josei romance manga with Yamada-kun. We haven't done a light novel. I was thinking Toradora.
As long as nobody gives me that as a nickname.
No. I would not do that.
So that's my thought there. Other thing I've asked is that we're wrapping up the year. Of the shows in general that you watched this year, what were some of your favorites?
You go first.
No, I have to think back on all the shows I've watched this year. Because I was sick. I was sick several times, so I binged so many
isekai, you guys. Just so every time I'm coming up to him, like, what you watching? It's a different isekai. So like for me, I feel like the last couple years in anime have been like my favorites of all time because I feel like with shows like Free Rin and Delicious in Dungeon and Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill, um, they are pandering to me specifically. Like these are my niche interests. Thank you. Thank you to the people who made them. But I also think it's because more and more women are getting their works made. Um, Pretty sure that two out of the three I just mentioned were written by women. And so I don't know. I just I appreciate that, and I like being seen as we all do. But I'm also having a really fun time going back and exploring things like Bubblegum Crisis that I kind of gave a miss to when I was younger. And it turns out that they are actually very pertinent to my niche interests as well. Good times.
Yeah. Of the shows that I watched this past year, um, loved Dungeon Meshi, Delicious Dungeon.
Yay.
Really glad to see Oshinoko season two. I like both from the continuing the mystery storyline side of things, and also the getting to see them put together a 2.5D play kind of thing. Which is doubly great because we're now actually got a 2.5D production playing off Broadway in New York,
Mhm.
Attack on Titan the musical. Um,
Oh, snap.
yeah. Uh,
Actually, that series really fits with kind of the operatic stage treatment.
Otherwise,
We're Nazis in most Broadway plays.
They're all too dramatic.
I'm going to have a full video with like, going more in depth than this on my YouTube channel, on the YouTube channel the Wednesday after the podcast goes live. But so I was going brief here. Also, the new Spice and Wolf was great. Really liked that. Um, liked like enjoying Dan to Dan. Actually, honestly, while it's not done yet, it's one of my favorite shows of the year. And a lot of people slept on this show, but they shouldn't have. Brave Bang Bravern, uh, super robot anime, and the series that looks at G-Witch and says, "I see that you made a very gay mecha show. Hold my beer. I can make it gayer."
Oh, Kaiju number 8 was also a delightful surprise.
Oh yeah.
Came up, slapped me in the face with how much I loved it.
Um, love Kaiju number 8. I think I actually saw Yuri on Ice for the first time this year, and it kind of made me realize it takes very little change in interpretation to see most sports anime as belonging in the boys' love genre. I'm like, okay, I see a lot more in how fanfics. I can see a lot more. Really enjoyed the latest season. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Uh I don't know if I have a favorite this year though. Like I said, I got sick a few times and binged so much, and obviously I was sick, so I do not remember that the best. There's lots of vibes in my watching.
There was that one series that you liked so much that you bought the
Oh
entire
my God,
published
that's
light
right.
novel series of.
Yes, okay. It wasn't the first time I watched it, but I did get sick and really loved it more that way. I did buy the first 12 volumes of
Trapped in a dating sim.
Trapped in a Dating Sim. Otome Life is Hard for Mobs. The last 13th volume comes out in English in January, and I've already pre-ordered it. Yes. That probably is the one I enjoyed the most.
There we go. He went from like, hey, I'm really enjoying this show to I just ordered all of the books.
I actually I ordered the first four and I'm like, okay, I can do this. And I'm like, okay, we'll see if the books are as good. That'll get me through where we are and a little further. And the sixth book was out of print. And I literally hit
He
everywhere.
was so upset.
Amazon, Powell. You know where I eventually found volume six? It was on the Crunchyroll store. They were the only people on the internet who had it for less than like $50.
Not even like Al Libris or Half Price Books or that sort of thing.
Not that I could find cheap. Like there was a bunch of like used ones that were in the, $30, $35 range,
Uh
but I'm like, I'm not gonna pay for the light not that much for a light novel. It's not Vampire Hunter D Volume 22.
I'm eating breakfast or whatever, and he's just stewing at the dining room table. Like,
I'm like,
I need this dang book.
no, 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 no. The worst bit was just, okay, I am at volume 5. I have just started this. I know I can finish it in like a day, but if I do that, then I'm gonna have to wait weeks before the next one arrives. So do I read it slowly
Yeah.
or not?
When I
I
tell
did
you
not. I
guys
did
he
not.
agonized over this decision, I mean, for real. What a time to be alive. You could watch this show and get translated versions of the novels, and one of them is not available, but eventually you find it. Like this is the fandom trenches.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
good.
honestly, like as annoying as it is having to wait for the final volume and also avoiding spoilers for what happens in the final volume, I'd still rather to have to do that than wait for the next anime convention, and then hunt through
Every
the
single stall,
shops
yeah.
finding the one that has it.
Yeah,
Probably ending up with a bootleg.
yeah, particularly
Oh,
since like
absolutely a boo.
yeah, particularly since like at like at Kimura-con, the dealer's room, like I appreciate artisality, the fan artist side getting more space. But like there aren't like I used to be able to like dig through booths to find old DVDs and out of print DVDs and manga volumes and that sort of thing. And they don't have that much anymore. Like the most they got now is like the one booth which has a bunch of doujinshi, generally adult doujinshi imported from Japan, which like some of which it gets into older stuff when I appreciate them having that, but it's like that's also like I enjoy digging through finding old DVDs that I couldn't necessarily find elsewhere, or finding old manga volumes I couldn't find elsewhere. And it's I enjoy being able to do that in a dealer's room at a convention rather than perusing a Value Village or a Goodwill or um, like one of our local independent game stores that also has a DVD selection to see if they have it.
This is a very boomer sentiment, but it's like you haven't really been in the anime fan trenches unless you've been through uncounted numbers of cardboard boxes filled with stuff at a convention. Like
Yeah, like the most they have for like older physical media now is Laserdisc, which again, appreciate the Laserdiscs, but like I don't have a Laserdisc player. We have a mutual friend who does, but I don't.
Like it's not just who doesn't have a laserdisc player. It's also what do you do when it breaks down?
Yeah,
It's like they're not really making the parts for him anymore.
yeah,
Like a few people absolutely are, but it's going from this is an expensive but very nice piece of equipment to this is a really expensive thing, and how much of an investment am I actually willing to put into this? Especially since as one piece fails, that means the next one's more likely to fail, means the next one's more likely to fail. So
yeah.
sorry, you said One Piece fails, and I was like, never in its life.
don't worry, it's got maybe 10 years left. Maybe. Maybe
Sorry,
more.
sorry.
I
Uh,
mean, Oda said it's heading towards its last part of the story, but this is Oda, so is it like the last arc, or is that the last
never, you can never trust a Japanese creator when they say they're finishing something. Never.
Just look at how many times Miyazaki has retired.
Never.
I am finished making films. Why are you back this time? My son made another one, and
it
it was an
terrible. Then
like
breaks out his son for 10
and
minutes.
now and now I'm retired for real. Wait, what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Wait, the Demon Slayer movie made how much money?
Which one?
Deep Mugen Train. Mugen Train made
Oh
how much?
God.
Yeah, Mugen Train had money. I guess I'm coming out of retirement again.
Mugen Train was gorgeous.
Yes, I understand. Like, but that's also like again, like Miyazaki coming out shortly after that, and then also like whenever somebody says a director, oh, this director is the new Miyazaki, and Miyazaki goes, I guess I have to come out of retirement again.
We'll
Honestly,
see.
honestly, I loved Tamino's take on that. Of, stop trying to be the next Miyazaki. Start trying to,
Surpass him.
yeah, it's like you need to be better than Miyazaki's. And
Yeah,
it's Tamino, so of course he said it in the most combative way possible. But it's like, don't think of him as the peak. Think of him as the thing you need to overcome.
They're all so salty, and I love it.
Tomatoes at like so. I read Min, who created Gundam, recently. And I get so I had to guys like I previously I thought, oh, Tomino at this point in his career, he's reached the point where he's run out of Fs to give. No, he never had any Fs. He's always
He's never been chill ever.
No, like much like Ano, Tamino is an artist who has battled with his depression. And that is most obvious with Zeta Gundam and with Victory Gundam. But at the same time, he is an artist who, much like Ano, understands how to turn that personal pain into creative, working it through. I personally think he's much better at, not having having that pain fuel the work and not be sort of an indelible part of it, like the way a mental breakdown is part of Evangelion.
Or
yeah.
maybe he just has a stronger marketing team. Like, we could talk for an entire podcast about the push-pull in the Gundam series between nihilism and marketability. Like,
Well, the thing is, you're absolutely right. There is no series that ends more depressingly than Space Runaway Ideon, another of Tamino's 80s. 80s were not a great time for him, clearly. Literally, it ends with everything in the universe dying. There is no more nihilistic.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I like it's like him and Michael Moorcock going for like the most nihilistic endings in fiction with Moorcock's Eternal with Auric series.
I will say, unlike Moorcock, Tamino at least is able to go back and look at things and say, that's how I was, that's not how it should have been. And that, like, giving Mobile Suit or Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam a new translation, giving it an uplifting ending in comparison to the original. Like, still super horrible war, tons of people died, but letting the protagonist have a happy ending instead of vegetative.
We could also have a whole podcast on how interesting it is when an artist revisits their previous work. Like, there's just so much wrapped into doing that, and how you've changed and how people's relationship with the work has or hasn't changed. And it's just a fascinating topic that I will say no more on, because otherwise I'll talk forever.
Yep. Well, I will say we're coming up on about an hour, so I'll talk about what we'll be doing for next month. Since next month is the new year, and with it Chinese New Year, we will once again be revisiting Thunderbolt Fantasy
Woo!
for season 3 and the second film, Bewitching Melody of the West.
Woo.
You've come such a long way from when you first assigned us Thunderbolt Fantasy, and I was like, the puppet show?
Let's see what nonsense Gale gets them into this time.
All the nonsense.
And also, I should take a moment to say, if anyone at Crunchyroll is listening, license Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 4, you cowards.
Do it.
Also, if anyone at Crunchyroll is listening, you can sponsor us.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do affiliate links to stuff in the Crunchyroll store, but there aren't any physical releases for Thunderbolt Fantasy for me to put affiliate links for, unless Crunchyroll were to license Thunderbolt Fantasy for a physical media release.
Hint, hint.
I mean, given that Crunchyroll is now owned by or no, They were always owned by Sony. It's they now
No,
own
yeah,
Funimation.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah. The Sony always owned Funimation. They bought Crunchyroll,
That's
which
that's the way it worked, right?
yeah, which I have mixed feelings on because on the one hand, not a fan of consolidation. On the other hand, um, it, Crunchyroll was previously owned by Time Warner Discovery, and at the time that Sony bought them, David Zaslav was running through the halls of Discovery with a bloody machete, cackling like Christian Bale in American Psycho. So I think that all things considered, I can't get too mad about that specific merger and acquisition.
I can say as someone who had tried to watch and occasionally successfully watch things on the Funimation streaming platform, I'm very glad that it's all through Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
They did not have the best interface.
There are things that did not carry over, sadly.
Oh God, all my digital purchases did not,
Yeah,
but
digital purchases
most
did carry over. Also, like on the Funimation app, they had the um, Blu-ray of the home video versions of, for example, the episodes for like Bakemonogatari and that sort of thing, and those did not carry over.
oh,
But it's otherwise like that said, I would not have put it past David Zaslav to shut down Crunchyroll entirely for a tax write-off. So, and that would have been like as bad as the Sony merger was for the industry as a whole.
mhm.
I feel like um ingloriously and indignantly just yanking the plug on Crunchyroll would have also been very bad. Um,
This is late stage capitalism. Things
yeah,
happen that are bad, but also kind of good, but still also bad.
I mean, have you
yeah.
seen the argument that we're no longer in late stage capitalism? We've entered an entirely new thing.
No, but
Yeah,
sure,
because
why not?
essentially it's like, okay, well, yeah.
Then I can tell you what the next phase is. Violent revolution. Just going off of history.
I
Uh,
mean, you mean when the CEOs should be scared of being gunned down in the streets? Because
Such profound lack of sympathy for
that's
me.
already happened once.
yeah, it feels weird like with that happening in the year that where we had the Paris Olympics, where we had Gojira, the French heavy metal band, do a tribute to the French Revolution with a bunch of through elaborate stage stuff, decapitated Marie Antoinette's, um,
Multiple times. Do you think
singing
they were
along
trying to tell us
to
something?
singing along to a French Revolutionary anthem, ending in fountains of red streamers getting blown out the windows of a French Revolution prison.
I will start a petition for Gojira to be the voice of the revolution. Who's with me?
No, I'm voting for baby metal
Yeah.
just because I like baby metal.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with Gojira. I want
Yeah.
to be clear on that.
Yeah.
But I think the revolution being, with gothic Lolita metal singers doing some absolutely gorgeous vocal work is just it. The mental image is too beautiful for me to
Yeah.
not support.
Okay.
We should probably wait for the revolution to start before we design the soundtrack.
Yeah. Minor quick
No, you
note.
clearly need to be in more production meetings if you're waiting to design the soundtrack.
Well, one quick note before we wrap up, as far as related to the Gojira stuff. Um, my our local library app Libby has their magazine rack thing with magazines that you can read, including lots of British magazines, including Metal Hammer, which has an interview with Gojira about the what went into their performance at the Paris Olympics opening ceremonies. So um that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, Otaku USA, which is like one of the last few remaining English language anime magazines, is not in there. But if it was, I would recommend you to read Otaku USA magazine in there because they do good stuff. But anyway, once again, next month and thus next year, we will be covering Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 3 and the film Bewitching Melody of the West. And just to give you the next one after that, if you're planning on buying physical copies of stuff on sale, take advantage of remaining holiday sales. We'll be doing for February Fate Zero. I bring that up now because the
whole of
Aniplex.
it, or season 1 or season or
So like the whole thing is like 24 episodes,
Yep.
like for both seasons, so we can just do all of that.
awesome.
It's my favorite one.
So, but yeah,
It's-
like,
yeah.
you know, like grab that on sale. That's an Aniplex Blu-ray release, so it's going to be got pricey. But take if the retail place does stuff with like a firm or that sort of thing, it's a good place to take advantage of stuff like that to make the high price point not hurt so much. um, but that's our plan for the next couple months. So, if you enjoyed what you heard and want to chip in with your thoughts, we have an email address. That email address is animeexplorationspod@gmail.com. And if we get emails, we will read them. And if we get emails about the show, what we talk about, we will bring those up on the show in a discussion. Also, if you want to financially support the show, I'll have an affiliate link for the Fate Zero in the show notes, but also you can support the show by backing us on Patreon at patreon.com/count0or. Patreon backers get access to edited versions of these streams of these podcasts up to a week in advance, along with my Let's Play videos and my blog posts and that sort of thing. And also we have a Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/count0. If doing the monthly backing thing doesn't fit your budget, I understand times are financially tricky. And particularly since, again, the holiday season, we're spending lots of stuff on gifts and that sort of thing. So that's where we're at there. Any support you can do help. Also, of course, rate and review on your podcatching platform of choice helps. And tell your friends if they're looking for a new anime podcast and something with a more relaxed pace than a weekly sort of thing. That also helps well as well. So until next month, thank you all very much for listening.
Happy holidays, y'all, if you celebrate.
And we'll see you in the new year.